How'd you do? Was your arms up or you didn't want them down?
Hi, this is Patrick Everson for Covers.com, and I'm coming to you from the Still inside the Mirage Resort right here on the Las Vegas Strip. This is a great dining, eating establishment and an excellent place to take in your sports, especially on a day like today. It is Major League Baseball's opening day, so we're going to be talking some baseball here today, and I got a couple of very good people to talk about it with. Got Ted Savransky, Teddy Covers, one of our covers experts, and we got Marc Meltzer, who you might know is kind of our covers man about town, but he's also a seam head through and through. The guy knows his baseball, no doubt about it, far more so than I do. So I'm going to definitely be relying on my guests today to walk us through a whole lot of things that will hopefully help you make more informed wagers on your betting and learn some of the things that you need to be looking for. Let's just jump right into it. Obviously, Teddy, we'll start with you. The big thing with any baseball game, you always got to start with pitchers and work your way from there. How do you look at it from that perspective?
By May 1st, 95% of pitchers will be priced accurately. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a little bit of leeway in April for some pitchers that may be mispriced a little bit. By May, pitchers are priced correctly. I absolutely would recommend to use the markets to your advantage. Don't spend hours breaking down starting pitching matchups. Mm-hmm. Use your time more wisely. Wisely, the markets have done that for you in a lot of ways.
All righty. How do you look at pitchers when you get rolling on this?
I do the opposite of what Teddy recommended. I spend hours in looking at matchups. I wake up and look at data. I spend my lunch break looking at data. I have a 3 o'clock reminder to look at data one last time before placing my wagers. I look for hot streaks, cold streaks. There's that 5% of pitchers is probably accurate that are undervalued, and I look for those guys. So I look at pitchers that may be on a streak, that may be where there's an average value, there's a high and a low to that average, and I'm looking for people at the bottom of the average. So I spend a little time, because I'm a nerd and I love baseball, and I love all the information that's available. You can look at pitch FX data. You could look at the break of every single pitch if you want to get that granular. I don't. I do. I'm joking with how much time I spend. It might be 15 minutes each period, but There are those 3 periods a day where I look at information. And it is on pitchers for the most part.
All right. Well, you want to add something?
Well, I wanted to ask you, saying looking at streaks and look at that. Here we are, it's opening day. Okay, all we have is last year's data and spring training data. And what I found, at least for the first few weeks of the season, spring training, how pitchers did in spring training in any way, shape, or form. Their stats, the quotes coming out of spring training, the manager's assessment, it's all useless, meaningless.
Agreed.
Couldn't be worth less. So when we're talking about strategies for folks out there for the first week of the season or the first month of the season, I
totally agree with you.
Okay.
I'm thinking for the whole season, but in the beginning you have to use. I bet every game yesterday because I thought all the teams were overvalued from last year's info. I bet today a couple of games on teams that I thought were overvalued based on last year's stats, like Rick Porcello. I don't think he'll have the same year that he will, but he's being priced as he was last year. So that's the information. I only bet 2 games today because, out of, what is there, every other team that outside of the 3 is playing. So there's enough games to bet, and it's picking and choosing the right ones that you think. But I bet every day, and, you're right, though, the spring training, out the door. Doesn't matter. Yesterday, Tanaka is a great example of that. The greatest spring ever. Meanwhile, he was priced against Chris Archer as though he was a Cy Young winner. Get out of here. And I'm a Yankees fan. I love the Yankees, but that was just silly, the way he was priced.
Well, let's. Would you want to add something else there, Ted?
Throughout the course of the discussion.
Sure, absolutely. So, start where with you. Righty, lefty. Current form, as you said, you throw that out the window these first few weeks. You can't base it on spring training, but generally speaking, righty, lefty, current form, ground ball, fly ball. What are some of the things that you're paying most attention to?
I firmly believe that baseball is most beatable when it comes with totals as opposed to sides. I firmly believe that generally starting pitchers are priced appropriately. So when you start looking lefty-righty switch and fly ball, ground ball, you can spend a ton of time with this, and you'll probably find small edges. You probably, I'm sure you will. It's just a matter of how you choose to utilize your time.
Sure.
Okay. And if you're someone that wants to live baseball all summer and spend 18 hours a day doing baseball, you can, and you'll find these edges. I work my balls off during football season. All right? I work my balls off during basketball season. In baseball, I'm a human being. In baseball season, I'm not saying I'm not doing anything. Oh, I'll take the easy way. I'm concentrating on stuff where I feel like the time that I'm going to put in is going to generate results.
Sure.
And for baseball, my strategy is simply, it's real simple. Bullpens and lineups. And I'm going to talk about this over and over again. Bullpens and lineups, bullpens and lineups. And with bullpens and lineups, we get into the most basic of winning baseball concepts, which is riding these frickin' streaks. Because that's the way to make money in baseball. It's not, and especially as we're talking about getting into May and June, where all the numbers are all, you're locked in. This is how good the pitchers are. This is what the totals are going to be for every team in every game. There's very little leeway when total, the 7.5, now the baseline 7.5 has moved up to a baseline 8. I mean, you have really limited movement on totals.
Right.
Whereas, you have the same two teams, and a team will be priced minus 110 one day and minus $3 the next day based on the starting pitching match.
Exactly.
The totals don't do that.
Right.
All right. That, in my mind, again, this is just me. This is what I want to do, but that I think is the best way to find those edges. So you can certainly, there's money to be made with analyzing the lefty-righty splits and who's got what kind of a lineup that's going to tatter fly ball pitchers versus ground ball pitchers or vice versa. Or this team's got a bad defense, and even though their pitchers are keeping the ball on the ground, they're not generating the outs they're supposed to.
Sure.
Yes, you can find edges, but in terms of using your time wisely, I think that my philosophy is that, and my strategy is that you can do that best with bullpens and lineups.
All right, I'll let you take it from there. Your take
I am that small percentage that loves baseball more than the others. So Teddy and I come at it at different angles.
Of course.
The way he feels about football is how I feel about baseball, which is I look at the fly balls and the Ks, and I look at that stuff. I want a guy with a high ground ball ratio. I want a guy with a low fly ball ratio. I want a guy with a lot of Ks, and those are things that I look at personally, and I look at that every day. That's the information I'm looking at. I don't want people to hit the ball, and I do agree. I play way more totals than sides because of that. Because you can research the information on the pitchers and understand it. At least for me, recreationally, where I have a real job in addition to betting, and I'm not spending however much time a pro is looking at the games. However, I'm spending more time than I guess the average person. So I'm looking at that information, and I'm looking at the totals. It just seems way easier to project, and I bet 5 innings because my attention span is nothing. So
right, the first 5 innings.
You could place a 5-inning wager in Las Vegas. Game starts at 4:30. Here, it's over by dinner. So God bless. That's a wonderful thing when you could have a bet resolved that quickly.
No question.
And we all have different things, but for pitchers, it's ground balls to me is number one because I'm always looking to go under. Fly balls, again, I don't want a lot of them. And I'll also look at the opposing batters and see if they have that high launch angle. Those if they're hitting fly balls or if they're hitting ground balls. There may be that mix. And like Teddy said, I'm looking for that, 1 game a day, 2 games a day that meet the right criteria.
Right. Well, and Teddy mentioned this, so let's jump into this next. When he alluded to lineups already. I'll start with you on this. What do you look for when you're handicapping the batters?
I tend to not look at the lineups as much, as in depth as the pitchers, because they're going to control how good a batter is, in my mind. It might not be the right mind, but it's my mind. I'll look and see. Like I said, if I have time, I'll go dive deep. But I'll look at streaks. I'll look at current information and see is there a batter that's been on fire for the last 2 weeks? Is there a batter that's cold? Is their best batter on a cold streak or a hot streak? Or is their best batters or their best batters on a cold or a hot streak? Because in baseball, you have so many games to bet, and there are so many ups and downs. It's looking for the ups and the downs. That sounds
Nope.
a little obvious. So I'm looking to get a hot pitcher against a cold lineup. So those are really how I try to look at baseball betting.
Do you bring the lineups much into? I mean, I know you said very much on pitchers, very much looking at totals. Do you bring them? What do you do when you're looking at lineups?
I'm going to ask Mark what he does for fun, though. Do you gouge your eyeballs out? I mean, when you're sitting there like, oh, I love betting these unders, man.
Oh,
How many unders do you lose in excruciating fashion?
Never. I don't find losing
Okay.
that. I bet so many baseball games that it doesn't really bother me. My friends all hate me because I bet unders and underdogs, and I'm betting against it. I would say 95% of the time
Sure.
because they're all the squares. They're all betting on the favorites and over, and I'm the opposite of pretty much everyone I know. I love pitcher duels. So to me, betting an under, I love a 1-0 game. You know, I love seeing a 0-0 game. Yesterday's, 9 runs, 11 runs, that bored me. The 1-0 game at night,
The
that
1-0
excited
game that
me.
turned into 3-0, that turned into 3-3, that turned into 4-3, where
That
your
turned
under
into
bettors
me-
got absolutely screwed.
That
You're-
returned a tweet of, I hate relief pitchers.
No, you're looking at it wrong. The
But-
whole thing
but
is you're supposed to love
I
these
had-
relief pitchers. They're doing what you want
They-
them to do.
I bet a lot of 5 innings to get rid of the relief
Sure,
pitchers.
of course, yeah, and-
because I despise all of them.
Yes, there's a
Even the
special
good
level
ones,
of hell.
There
for the
really
relief
is that
pitchers, yeah.
ninth inning, whether it's fantasy baseball back in the day or whether it's betting. I'm sure it doesn't happen often, but it feels like someone just put a raw butter knife into me and just swirling it around.
Of course it does. Yeah,
It's-
unders can be excruciating.
Yeah.
I find unders, and not that I won't bet them, but if I have a choice, what would you rather bet? I would much rather find an over that I like than to find an under that I
That's
like.
funny.
Because your beats aren't as tough. Even when it's 5-3 in the second, and then the game is, you have over 8.5, and it doesn't get there. It doesn't feel as bad as when it's 1-0
That
in the
feels
eighth.
worse to me.
Yeah,
And your relievers give it up.
yeah, exactly.
It's
But,
funny because we feel exactly the opposite.
Sure, but-
I would much rather just under and I'm done for the most part. I like I said, I probably bet what I enjoy, and I think I enjoy the pain of 3 hitters and 17 ground ball outs.
All right.
But you asked what I look for lineups, and there's only one answer: current form. A lineup that is, and if a basketball team shoots really well one day and they score 140, it has no effect on the next game. The shots fell that night; it may not have fallen the next game. In baseball, when a lineup gets going, it has a legitimate impact on that same team the very next day.
Right.
And your sabermetric guy, no, it doesn't. No. Yes, it does. If you watch baseball, you understand it does. And I mean, would you agree?
I would agree to an extent, yes.
Yes, of course. I mean, I'm not saying like every single time a team
Right.
scores 10 runs one game, they're going to score 9
But
the
there
next.
is, because
But-
you have so many games, and there are streaks in baseball
No
that
question.
you don't see in every sport. You don't see it in football at all.
Well, but more than that, the streaks legitimately impact the result of the next day's game. When you have a hot lineup, and they're hot on Friday, and they're hot on Saturday, you can expect, more likely to be not, that they are going to be hot again on Sunday.
Right.
When you have an exhausted bullpen, okay? Your starters got lit up on Friday, and everyone out of the bullpen came in. And then they look at the Reds last year as a classic example
Yes.
of what happens when a team gets a really bad, exhausted bullpen in May, and you can just catch over every single day on Cincinnati for weeks at a time, and
Yeah.
the markets don't catch up. But, when you have a hot lineup facing a bad bullpen, a bullpen that is struggling, what happened yesterday can legitimately affect what happens today, and the markets don't move to it at all. The markets are the totals. They 7 yesterday. It's going to be 7 again today. Maybe 7 over minus 115. You know what I mean? I mean, the littlest idiot. The
Right.
markets don't adjust. The Oakland. I still remember it was right at the All-Star break. The A's cashed 30 overs in a 32-game span, and their baseline total moved from 7.5 to 8.
That's it.
With a 30-2 run to the over.
Wow.
Okay, that's it. So every day you're getting the same total, for their home games I'm talking about.
Right.
So if the lineup's hot, the lineup's getting 4 runs every day, the bullpen's getting beat up every day, the starters aren't lasting deep into games, And these are streaks, they don't get you 1 win or 2 wins. You can play them literally for weeks at a time and cash 10 and 12 and 15 tickets riding the same team, doing the same thing with a market that's slow.
All right.
That's my 2 cents.
I understand. It was a good. It was a good 2 cents. You guys
Fire
are
it
both-
up, you!
This is good. This is it. This is entertaining live stream.
That
here
might
on
be as
Covers.
fires up as Teddy gets for baseball.
All right. Definitely an entertaining live stream
And
talking
I'm
Major
just getting
League
started.
talking Major League Baseball betting here with Teddy Covers, Ted Savransky, one of our covers experts, and with Marc Meltzer, our covers mostly man about town, but the guy, he knows his betting and he definitely knows his baseball, and he loves his baseball, no doubt about it. Let's move on to a couple of other factors. Ted, we'll hit you first. Mark, we'll kick it to you as well. Weather, umpires, how do those things, any other factors that come into play?
Umpires meaningful. Okay, and one thing that covers.com has, I'll tell you, their umpire stats are great. I haven't, they're better. There are umpire stats out there that are better. I don't know, not a whole lot. They have strike percentage. They have you can go back year by year and look at an ump's progression and strike percentage. You can look at their totals and their total results year by year and go back. Is this a temporary thing? Is it a long-term thing? But there's absolutely something to be said for, betting umpires with narrow strike zones over, and betting umpires with wide strike zones under. There's a reason that, Robbie Alomar smashed John Hirschbeck in the head with a bat. There's a reason that every bettor in the major leagues bet John Hirschbeck every game under for a 20-year span. There are umps like that. If you find them and track them, you can ride them.
Right. How do you see that on weather, umpires, any other factors?
Umpires, I definitely agree. I like to use them a little bit differently. Much like there's 2 ways that I look at them instead of getting that deep into it. Much like players and teams, umps run hot and cold. So I try to pay attention to that. Covers also has that, which is fantastic. But I also look at how they ump the home team versus the away team, because
Right.
I'm playing individual matchups. So I'm looking for a home underdog. And if there's an umpire that will favor home teams, I'll take that into account. I don't base everything off of that, but if I'm leaning one way and it's to the home team, I'll use that information. Weather, I pay attention to weather, believe it or not. I look for hot and cold weather. Hot weather, the ball flies. Cold weather, the ball doesn't. So I don't go deep into weather. I'm sure there's way better uses of it. That's
Right.
how I use it, hot or cold. That's why Texas has a lot of home runs. Cleveland may not. So, well, Cleveland might, but a cold, I'm thinking of a cold weather.
Yeah, cold
city.
town. I understood.
But Mark, I thought you made a great point because I'm like, I don't agree with you on this. I don't agree with that. You made a great point there
All
that
right.
I really want to comment on. You're saying, I rip everybody. Even myself. You should see me at home. I beat the crap out of myself. Do stupid stuff. But you said when you're making a case for a team, it's like building blocks.
Right.
Here's a case. Here's a case.
Everything.
You're not going to make a case based on one factor.
Correct.
You're going to build a case for a team, and here the ump. This is an ump that works. This is a weather situation that works.
Right.
And when you get to a certain number of building blocks, you're like, all right, this is a play.
It's 5-2 in
Exactly.
favor of X.
Yes, and that
Yep.
it's not just Kershaw's pitching. Obviously, Dodgers today.
Yeah, but
that's not how we.
That
do
minus
it.
300 sounds sweet.
Yeah, knock yourself out. Yeah.
All right, let's move along. Mark, go to you on this first, and then we'll bring it back over to you, Teddy.
Oh, no.
Which are, from a stats perspective, which are go-to stats for you in baseball, and which ones aren't that important, and maybe even particularly ones that people think are important, and you're like, this is not important?
I don't look at the baseball coach stats, batting average, ERA, and the such. I look for the advanced stats. Like I said earlier, I like the ground balls. I want to know the fly balls. I look for that from pitchers and hitters. And those are the things that I look at the most. Ks per 9, K percentage, ground ball percentage, fly ball percentage. I'll even look and see what the spin rate is if I get really deep into. If I get really deep into wanting to learn about a pitcher, there's so much data, there's so many websites that you can find information on just about anything. It's a matter, Like Teddy asked, if I like to stick a spoon in my eye and gouge my eyes.
Fork.
Sometimes I do.
Spoon would be interesting.
Sometimes I do, but I do that with data, and I'm like, what the hell am I looking at? And I'm like, this is really interesting, but why am I looking at it?
Right.
It really has no use for me today. Maybe it'll build something in the future. But there's the StatCast data from MLB. I don't need to know how fast somebody's running. I need the overall piece of how that team runs, whether it's on the running the bases, whether it's running the outfield. Tampa Bay has a great defense. I don't need to know every step up the data about every step Kevin Kiermaier takes. Now, that's available. I don't need it.
All right. How about you? Any stats that are go-to ones for you and ones that you think are not important, overkill-ish, what have you?
Well, I mean, we talk about how the betting marketplace has changed over the last 10 years. And the number one change has been the dominance of advanced metric stats over conventional stats. And how much more important the advanced metric numbers are to the betting lines now compared to where they were. The advanced metric stats control every single line. Okay, every one of them. Okay, there's not one spread out here that you're going to say, oh, well, this line's off. No, they're going to fit to the advanced metric numbers. So if you're going to try to beat these lines that are set based on these numbers, unless you're creating better advanced metric stats than every statistical database in the universe, which is insane right now how much is out there.
Exactly, as Mark alluded to.
I would recommend you try a different approach because the lines are as tight as they can possibly be based on the available statistical evidence.
All right, very good. Let's move along. This is a really important element that I know you'll both be able to speak to, and some bettors don't always think about this right away. They think about matchups and stats, but if you're trying to get through a season, baseball season just starts today. Money management systems for such a long season. How do you address that? I
mean, it's the same thing we talk about all the time. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Marathon, not a sprint. Okay, and particularly when you're talking about every day for the next 6 months. I would guesstimate probably half the people that are watching us today, or maybe not half, a decent percentage of the people that are watching us today won't have a bankroll for baseball by their All-Star break. And the goal is to avoid that,
Right.
So in terms of actual numbers, small, 1% of your bankroll. Step up, make a 2% play. It's not, I'm betting 80% of my bankroll every day because you will get wiped out.
Right. How do you respond to that, Mark?
I agree. When I first moved to Las Vegas, we'll start this with the story. When I first moved to Las Vegas,
stories are good.
When I first moved here, I had a budget for college football. I blew the budget the first week of the season. And that's what you want to avoid, like Teddy said. You want to use your money for the maximum value. You want to entertain yourself. A baseball fan, you might only want to get to the All-Star break. You might want to wait till the All-Star break if, that's how your budget works. I don't look at it as percentages as much as I look at dollars because that's what comes out of my pocket when I'm placing a wager. If I know I can only afford $20 on a game every day for the year and I want to bet 3 games a day, I will have to divide that $20 because I want to bet every day of the year.
Right.
So maybe it is a percentage thing. My mind doesn't work that well, so it doesn't deal with that. But it works in the dollar figures. I can deal with the dollars. And it's important because this is fun for me. Gouging my eyes out is fun. I want to do that every day of the year during the baseball season.
Right, for 6 long months.
I want the excuse to look at, the K rate of Felix Dubron. I want to know how awful that guy is. I want to watch the Red Sox tumble really poorly, although that probably won't happen. I enjoy it. So just space out your money and use it. Make sure you have it budgeted for the year.
Right.
Or however long you want to gamble.
You would like to stay in
Yeah,
play.
for me it's the year. For someone else it might be I only want to bet a month out of the year and I'm going to pick it for June.
Yep.
Well, that's fine. If it's $100, just divide it up by the amount of days in June and then how much you want to bet per day. Figure it out. It's not that difficult.
All right.
Unless you get percentages.
Outstanding. Unless you make Mark pull out a calculator, folks.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah, an abacus maybe. Look, we've already hit on betting hot and cold streaks. It sounds like you guys agree. This is the sport where that has more value. It's more value in a daily sport like this than other sports.
In my mind, it's the number one way to beat baseball, and just like it's the number one way to beat NBA. You know, if you look at
Because that's pretty much every day.
your
I agree.
daily sports. You know, if you look at, and I can only use NBA examples just because we're talking. You know, it's the first day of baseball season, so I can't. But you look at the first 2 months of the season, and the Miami Heat stunk, and the Washington Wizards weren't any good, and the Philadelphia 76ers were on their way to being another, bottom feeder.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, Miami starts playing good, and Washington starts playing good, and Philadelphia starts playing better, and the markets, not only do they not catch up for weeks, they don't catch up for months.
Right, Philly's been one of the best spread covering teams all season.
Best spread
Is the
covering
seed,
team.
yeah.
And they didn't start that way, and neither
No.
did Washington, neither did Miami. So those are just the type of streak. You know, look at the right now. The Warriors have covered 9 of their last 10. Oh, the overvalued Golden State Warriors, or the Portland Trailblazers. Pick up Nurkic, and all of a sudden they're 12 out of 15. These current trend, these current forms, especially after more than a month or so into the season, it's worth something.
Sure.
It really is, because the lines and the point spreads and the totals are all going to be set based on season-long numbers.
Right.
And when you find a team that is significantly overachieving or underachieving to those season-long numbers, that's when you strike. That's where
Get
the
on
value
them.
is.
I think Teddy put it right. It's finding those streaks and then getting them before the bookmaker does.
Right.
You know,
Before the
before the
market
numbers
catches up.
adjusted. And that's where you make the best money.
So if a team wins 10 games in a row, they're going to be the lead story on SportsCenter.
Right.
Pretty much. Even if they're a last place team, it might take them to win 12 games in a row. How long did it take the Heat to become the lead story on SportsCenter? I think it took them 15 games for Miami finally became the lead story on SportsCenter.
Right.
You can win. You can go over 20 games in a row, and it'll never make SportsCenter. You know what I mean?
In baseball.
So yeah, in baseball, basketball, and football, and I mean, the total streaks do not get noticed at the same way the side streaks do, and therefore the markets don't make the adjustments the same way the sides do. Hence, many times the total streaks can last longer than the side streaks do, and that's tend to be streaks.
It's true. You haven't heard any mention about the Golden State Warriors streak at all. You know, the over, I believe
What,
it
the
is.
18-1 to the under in their last
Or
19
the under,
games?
yeah.
Yeah, sure.
No, you make a great point. So let's move along to this. There's every sport brings with it prop bets that are interesting. Some you have to make an investment early in the season and wait all year for it, which I know is something that Ted argues against and says, you did with teams last year in NFL.
Yeah,
Baseball may be a little bit
win
different.
totals are a positive expectation wager.
Right.
If you do your homework, you should absolutely make money with win totals. But some of
when
the other
you were
stuff
saying
you're
like
asking about
when you're
here.
saying like I remember we were talking last year, a long ways back, about NFL futures, and you're like, look, when you're talking about championships and so forth, you might be able to get the same number 2 or 3 months into the season as you get
No
now.
question.
So don't tie your money up. But with props for baseball, let's say for example Cy Young, MVP, home run leader, do you look at any of those at all? Do those interest you at all? Or are you more of a for what you do play, looking more at the day-by-day stuff?
I'd be much more interested in a yes/no prop on Cy Young. Let me bet the no on these guys. When and I have nothing against the sports books that do this. There's some great sports books that do this. But when you list 28 guys, or 40 guys, or
Right.
100 guys for Cy Young, and one of them is going to win and the other are going to lose,
Right.
it's really hard to find that needle in the haystack. I'm much more interested in anything you can find me for any individual. Yes or no, so-and-so over or under 16.5 wins. You have win totals for all for a bunch of baseball pitchers this year. For each one, you say, all right, and then win totals are very random for pitchers, but stuff like that, I'm much more interested in a yes/no on any given player than when you're factoring in the house takeout on these 20 or 40 or 60 group props. I don't get involved with them at all.
All right, and same would apply to MVP, home run leader, all of those things. How about you, Mark?
Well, you tell me who's going to win. Who's going to win the home run this year? Who's going to win the Cy Young?
I got
Who's gonna win the
nothing.
MVP?
I got a lot.
Do you have an edge on any of these guys?
No.
I mean, yeah, but
you
if
definitely have no edge. I
right,
totally
if,
agree.
If you find someone at 50
come
or
at it
100 to
from
1 that's live, yeah.
Right. I totally agree. I come at it as a different thing. Recreational bettor. Let's say I have $1,000 for the baseball season. I want to bet $1,000. I want the action every day. I don't want to wait. Baseball is such a long season that I don't want to wait till the end to see if there's any gratification in a Cy Young Award winner. Even though to wins total, yes/no wins total, which I would like more to have that more available. That's less attractive to me because I want, like I've said repeatedly, I want that daily grind. I enjoy that for baseball specifically. Football, basketball might be a different thing, but for baseball, I don't look that way. And if I am looking or recommending stuff, I always look to the long shots. That to me, if you're gonna put a few bucks down on a player on a team, go for somebody long that might have a soft schedule, might have some kind of advantage that you see. I just.
But a very nominal investment at that, even with that.
Yeah, if that. I mean, it's a few bucks. It's maybe one game's worth of funds, But I'm with Teddy. I don't bother with that. It's just I'd rather wait for that hot streak, cold streak, and make my money today as opposed to in 6 months.
Sure.
Now, season win totals can be a positive expectation wager, no question. We talk about any given team over or under a number.
Right.
Even at minus 115, bettors have proven that those wagers can be highly profitable.
Right.
That's my one for the year.
All right.
I make one season win total bet every year.
What'd you bet?
I have the Rockies over 79.5 maybe.
Good luck.
Thank you. It's my one every year. There's always one over or under. For season win totals, it's more fun to be like Teddy and go over because I want a team to do well.
And it's so funny because I have no problem betting season wins under.
Exactly.
Because it's not the same excruciating as you've had this 1-0 game into the bottom of the 8th, and next thing you know, you're total shot to hell.
See, I find it the opposite.
It is funny to hear how you guys both come at this. The points. There's several points of agreement, but how you guys get there is really interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of points of agreement, I think, but there's very different ways to get there.
Sure, absolutely. All right, let's we're getting close to wrapping this up, and again, we're going to remind you guys, if you're checking us out on YouTube, watching through Periscope, however you're dropping in on us today, this is Covers live stream baseball betting roundtable, and we're obviously opening day of the baseball season. And if you are checking us out on YouTube, we ask, hey, give us subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got a lot of great video content, and if you subscribe right now, we got some cool things going on, giving away some great Cover swag packages, also some Covers Expert promo packages. We've got more than $1,000 we're giving away in promo packages for Covers Experts. Let's go to you next, Mark. We'll hit on two more things. First up, teams you're watching over the first month or so, good or bad, just to see where they're going. Any teams that fit that description for you?
There's really not. I'm watching Rockies because of my season win total bet.
Sure.
Honestly, I'm just watching. I'm observing all the teams. I want to see who looks good, who looks bad. I don't have a specific team because I don't have a specific bet that I need to worry about, that I'm concerned about. I just want to know the data. The names and numbers of the players and the teams matter way less to me than the actual information. So I just want to learn. I want to watch the game, enjoy the game, learn how the players are doing. If so-and-so is doing better today, than expected, I'll look at that. I don't look for anyone specifically, except for my man, Gary Sanchez on the Yankees. I want it to be the best player ever. I want Aaron Judge to be the real monster that doesn't strike out every other time he bats. I want the Yankees to be amazing. Not going to be that way, but that's what I want.
All right, very good. How about you, Teddy?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm going to agree with Mark on this. It's not like I'm coming in like, oh, I've got this team circled. I got a handful of teams circled. It's a long handful of teams that I'm interested in. I can run through some of them. I'm fascinated with this Padres team. Yes. Do you know that San Diego's entire payroll for their 25-man opening day roster is less than the Dodgers are paying Clayton Kershaw this year?
Oh my gosh.
Their opening day starter is a guy who was basically going to be out of baseball a year and a half ago.
Right.
The Padres and another team that's always lined 6.5, 7, at Petco. I'm not convinced their pitching's going to get anybody out. And I think that the Padres might be a really strong over team for me this year. With all of these teams, all their games lined, and they think about the West Coast parks. I mean, talk about, Chase Field, and then we talk about, things that are different. Chase Field, over park in April, over park in May. They close the roof, and that's the end of the overs at Chase Field. But we saw it again yesterday. And then Bumgarner struck out 11, didn't walk a batter. Did that game go over? No, it flew over.
Right. Exactly.
With throwing a gem, he couldn't have pitched any better. And then but San Diego's a team that says, I'm fascinated by this squad because they are not just bad. They might be horrifically bad.
Yeah, historically bad.
And if their pitching's as bad as I think it is, they're going to go over the total of game in, game out, which might be a lot of fun to bet on because again, their baseline total is so low.
All right, a couple of
That's excruciating right there.
couple of very good tips from both of you on that. Let's wrap up this live stream. Covers.com baseball betting roundtable. Teddy, we'll start with you. Mark, we'll finish off with you. Any teams that you see as potential World Series sleepers? Teams beyond the Cubs, the Red Sox, the Indians. Anybody that you see there that you think has a chance to sneak up a little bit?
Honestly, it's a little bit early. Ask me in a month and I'll have some strong opinions. But right now, and again, the odds aren't going to change crazy between now and a month from now.
Exactly.
So it's not like you have to go into I got to get all my future bets now before opening day. No, you don't.
Right.
Take your time.
I think that's undervalued by a lot of bettors is to wait for the season, see how it develops, and then get your future in the middle of the year. You may lose a couple of dollars in your wager, but you're not going to lose a lot. So take a minute, chill out. I mean, I can give you names and numbers, but honestly, what are you looking at right now? I always look to long shots. I look for soft divisions that may be in play. I don't think the Dodgers are all that good. They're priced like they're God's gift to mankind. I don't think they're that good. That's why I bet the Rockies over. I think they're going to be able to find wins, not only in San Diego, but with the Dodgers.
As everybody may.
Right. But I think they'll be able to find it elsewhere. The Giants might be the team in the West that can win. The Nationals are likely going to be going up and back and forth with the Mets. Maybe they're the team. Maybe their odds are going to be a little longer, 10-1, something like that. Where it might be a little more better value play, but again, it's so far off. I actually look closer to the All-Star break at the futures because I think you're going to find a better value that other bettors aren't going to look at that point.
Well, let's maybe to wrap up, we'll phrase the question a little more this way, rather than a sleeper that maybe you'd bet on, but one team that each of you thinks maybe help themselves the most heading into this season.
I mean, I'm a fan of, in terms of lineups.
Yeah.
Boy, the Astros are going to hit, and the Mariners are going to hit. And that's two teams I've got absolutely circled as teams I'm looking to bet over the total from the get-go in April. Two teams that have really potent lineups, and if either of those two squads end up having any pitching or bullpens, they're live to make some noise. So Astros and Mariners are two teams that
How about you?
stand out.
It pains me right now because we've disagreed almost all day. I really agree with the Astros. I think their lineup. I think I actually had them in my World Series prediction. If you're looking for again soft division, relative, I don't think the same as Seattle as he does. I think they're going to implode and be a pile of ice. I just think I think King Felix is done. I think their stadium, their field is just so big. They're not going to have the hitting that they will. But I think that there are enough pieces added to the Astros where they are looking serious as a World Series contender and as a
come on, flying around in here.
Hoping he would just keep floating around your head. I even look at the Braves. They brought in a whole lot of meatballs, but those are league average meatballs. They're being priced as a way under meatball. So I'm going to look at things like that.
Atlanta has a bullpen that might make the Padres bullpen look good.
It's possible. 5-inning bets are awesome.
I mean, when it comes to as I'm grading out bullpens early, I mean Atlanta's.
I believe
right
it. I've seen them as lower 5 in a handful of places that I've looked.
So I'm hoping the Braves can hit a little bit, and then we can cash some over.
There you go.
There you go. And Mark, you mentioned this. I think Teddy, you alluded to it, folks. There is a great way to get in and get out of a baseball game here in Las Vegas is betting the 5 innings. Just bet the first 5 innings and hopefully cash your ticket and be on your way here to the next game. Or if you're Mark, our man about town, you might be on your way out to dinner if you cash a ticket here. He
listen, there's nothing better than baseball game paying for your dinner.
There's something about that. Like you go into the casino, you put a bet down. You cash your bet and then you go take that bet. You take your girl out or you still go have a meal. It's like it feels good about that, no question. Especially as a casual bettor. It's like I'm spending your guys' money to eat at the Still today. Yeah.
Exactly, fantastic. And it's nice of you to mention the Still there, Teddy. Remind you guys, we are in the Still inside the Mirage Resort. This place is a great eating and drinking establishment and an incredible place to come and take in sports, any sports. But of course, with opening day here today in baseball, you come in here, get your fill of baseball a little bit later when they open up. On weekends, it's spectacular. It's been great throughout the NCAA tournament. It's awesome for football. You can see around me a handful of TVs. I can tell you, whatever you see behind me, multiply it by like 4 or 5, and that'll probably get you a good close approximation of just how many TVs are in here. There's not a bad vantage point in the house, so we appreciate them giving us use of their space, not only today, but over the last couple of days. We've done a couple of things in here that have been great, and we appreciate them having us, hosting us. It's been fantastic. So there you have it, a little baseball betting roundtable, covers.com. Thanks again to Ted Savransky, Teddy at Teddy_covers on Twitter, right? At Teddy_covers on Twitter. He's a great follow. Marc Meltzer, our covers man about town and a seam head extraordinary himself. He is at Meltz Vegas, which is MELTZ, right?
Yeah.
At Meltz Vegas. I got that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And of course, follow us on Twitter at Covers. And again, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. We got the promo going on right now, giving away some nice swag packs and again, also some Covers Experts promotional packages as well. Again, thanks to both of you. For Covers.com, I'm Patrick Everson, and that is a wrap from the Still. Good luck with your baseball betting this season.